Today's lesson is lesson 3.2, slope from equations of lines. There are different ways to write equations of lines. Let's go ahead and start with a remember to determine the slope of a line or the rate of change of a linear function, give it its equation. First, determine the format of the equation. So we are going to talk about three formats today. The slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, where my slope is the variable m. Notice that m, my slope, is right here next to my variable x. There we go. M is right here next to my variable x. We can also have the point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Once again, my slope is the variable m, which you see right here in front of the parentheses. If we go ahead and look at the two examples down below, we can see that the slope of this equation is negative 5 over 2, and that the slope of this equation is 2 because they are in the m position. Let's go ahead and take a look at our last form, which is standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. In this form, our slope is not a, in this form, or sorry, our slope is not m. Our slope can be calculated by doing negative a divided by b. So the number in front of x divided by the number in front of b. Now remember, or sorry, in front of y. Remember though that the b quantity does take the sign of the symbol in front of it. So if it is plus, it is a positive b value. If it is minus, then it is considered a negative b value. We do have a negative, and yes, we can have a negative in the bottom, and we can have a negative in the top as well, depending on what value, what sign A and B have. In this case, we see that we have a 7 and a negative 3, so we're going to go ahead and say negative 7 over negative 3. We would simplify that because of the double negative. It would become positive 7 over 3. A little bit of work to do here in standard form, but we can still find the slope. Some linear equations are not written in any of the forms shown above, such as this form right here. For these types of equations, you need to solve for y and simplify to the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. This is always a good form to simplify to. It is the easiest of the forms to find slope. So if we go ahead and take the one that they gave us, this other form that they gave us, we can simplify it to this, seeing that our slope is in fact 4. Let's go ahead and give some of these a try. So here we have an equation of a line is shown in the table in 3 different forms. They want us to identify the slope of each one of these. So in our first one, we are in slope-intercept form. All we have to do is remember the form, y equals mx plus b, where m is my slope, which means this right here is my slope. And all I have to do is say the slope is 4 over 3. All right, moving on, let's go ahead and take a look at our next one. Now this one is in slope-intercept form. I could always write the slope-intercept form above it, which helps me to identify the slope. Remember, once again, in this form, my slope is m, so it looks like my slope is 4/3. Once again. Now, the second column, we didn't have to do this. That was method 1. We used the formula. Method 2 would be, let's solve this equation and put it in y equals mx plus b in the slope-intercept form. Well, for the first one, it's already in the slope-intercept form, so we didn't have to do that. But for this one, let's go ahead and practice. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to distribute your slope inside of the parentheses. So that would give us y minus 2 equals 4/3 x minus 4, because 4/3 times 3 is 4. Okay, first step, always distribute the slope. The second step is to come right over here, and you want to get this variable y by itself. You want to get the variable y by itself. So I'm just going to color it in just to help remind my brain I need to get rid of the -2. Well, to get rid of a -2 and move it to the other side of my equation, I do the opposite, which is add 2, because that will cancel it out to 0, leaving me y by itself equals. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I need to add 2 to the other side. I have two values that I could add to 2. I can't add 2 here and 2 here, because if I add 2 to both of them, I'm actually adding 4, and that takes my equation off balance. If I add only 2 to one side, I must add only 2 to the other side. So I have to figure out, where should I add the 2 to? I have to find its like term. Well, how do I find its like term? I look at what's with the 2. It's just a 2. Notice that the 4/3 has a variable x. That makes the 2 and the 4/3 x not like terms. I cannot add the 2 here because that does not make sense. They're not the same. But the 4 does not have an x with it, and I can go ahead and add to it. You might be thinking, but the 4 is negative. That's okay. I can add a number to a negative number and change that number. That's okay. I cannot add a number without a variable to a number with a variable. So the 4/3 is going to say 4/3 x, and -4 plus 2 is going to become -2. Now I am in y equals mx plus b, and I can easily see once again that 4/3 is in fact my slope. All I'm doing here is giving you another method to help you find the slope. All right, our last and final one is in standard form. Now I can use the formula given up above, that it's -a over b. -a over b. So I'm just going to kind of remind myself, let me grab my light one, that this is the a term and that this is the b term. I'm just going to remind myself with my lighter color. Well, the a term, if you recall, if you write it down, it's always good when you're learning a new form to write it down, because then it kind of becomes like pre-K. Oh, A is 4. Oh, B is 3. No, wait, it's -3, and C is 6, because it just becomes like matching. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put 4, and I'm going to put -3, just like we said, because remember the B takes the sign in front of it, positive or minus, plus or minus. I have to clean this up because there are two negatives that I see. The negative from the formula and the negative from the B would make a positive 4/3. So there's method 1. Method 2 would be to solve for y, would be to solve for y. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my formula over here. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line, and I want to remind myself to get the letter y, the variable y, by itself. The first thing I will do, and I will always do this first, is move the x value to the other side. So the 4x needs to move to the other side with the 6. Since it's positive, I will subtract it. That's the only way to cancel it to 0. Once I move it over here, I'm going to see that I cannot do 6 minus 4 is 2, because it's not 6 minus 4, it's 6 minus 4x. Because that x is hanging around with the 4, it's a totally different number, and I cannot do that. I have to keep the minus with the 3. It's changing from subtraction now to negative. Now you can see that that is in fact a negative 3 and not a subtraction of 3 now that the x has moved. I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite my subtraction, but I'm going to rewrite it with the minus 4x first plus that positive 6. You'll see why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to help me find the slope. After I've gone ahead and rewrote my subtraction, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide by whatever number's in front of the y. It's trying to trick me into thinking that it is a subtraction. But remember, that minus is no longer a subtraction because the stuff in front of it has moved. It is now changed from a minus subtraction to a minus negative, and it can do that. I divide by the negative 3 and I end up with y equals. I must divide everybody else by negative 3 as well. It's always good to divide each of the other numbers by the negative 3 because you're going to notice right here, there's your slope because of the x, and then 6 minus 3, or 6 divided by negative 3 would be negative 2. And you need to make sure that you notice that simplification. Once again, we're in y equals mx plus b, where we can quickly see that our slope is 4/3, and we were correct. All right, in the try this, the line shown on the graph represented by the equation shown in example 1. They want you to verify that the slope of the line using the rise over run method and the formula. So go ahead and pause it and see if you can get the rise over run if you remember how to do that. I'm not going to go over it here in the video because I did come around and check it in class. All right, let's go ahead and look at example 2. Determine the slope of the line represented by the given situation. State whether the given equation is written in slope-intercept form, point slope form, standard form, or other, none of the other forms. All right, so we need to give the slope and we need to say what form it is in. So let's go ahead and take a look at A. I think right away that the slope here is 25, and I think we are in slope intercept form, which is the y equals mx plus b. That's the form it looks like it's in. And of course, remember, that's where my slope is. And so that's how I figured out what it was. In the next one, I might have to do a little work here, but because this one appears to be in standard form. This one appears to be in standard form. So let's see, it's negative a divided by b. And if I pop that into my calculator, it's going to stay negative 5/3. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last one, or sorry, at C, the last one in this row. This one appears to be in point slope form, which means that my slope is right in front of the parentheses. So it appears that my slope is negative 3.4. So all I've done here is I've kind of identified my slope by finding the numbers that I needed and using them as such. All right, let's do one more together, and then I'll quickly go over the slope and state what form it's in, but we did E, F, G, H, and I independently in class. I will go over the slope and state them and the form that they're in, but I'm going to go pretty fast over those. I do believe for this one, the slope is going to be negative 2/7. And I do believe that this one is in slope intercept form once again. Now, I know this one looks a little tricky that it's not in slope intercept, but it is. What they've gone ahead and done here is they switched the M and the B is what they've done here. And that's all that they've done. So y equals mx plus b is the form that we're used to. And what they've gone ahead and done is they've just switched them. So they're trying to help me to look for the slope. Pause the video and go ahead and see if you can find the slope in E, F, G, H, and I. All right, in E, the slope is going to be -5, and this is in an other form. It appears to be in point slope, but it is not because the y is by itself. For F, my slope is -3/2, and this is in slope intercept form. In G, my slope is 2/3, and this is in point slope form. In H, I have to do a little bit of math. I have to divide everybody by 8 to get it into slope intercept form, and my slope would be -2. So I would call this one other, and I had to divide by the 8 in front of the y to get the slope. And the last one is in standard form, and my slope would be -4 divided by -1, or simply 4. Oops, there we go. And that one's in standard form. Let me just go back really quick and remind you of standard form. I probably should have put that there. And point slope form. There we go. All right. Okay, let's take a look at our last example, example 3. The function y minus 350 equals 25 times the quantity x minus 3 represents the profit in dollars made by the Academic Booster Club from the sales of X school spirit sweaters during their fall fundraiser. What format is used to represent the function, and how can you tell? Well, by looking at the function, which is this one right here, there's my function, I'm going to say that it is in point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. How could I tell? The parentheses are what gave it away. The thing that gave it away for me was that the y was being subtracted by a number. The slope was in front of the parentheses. And inside the parentheses, I saw x minus a number. I saw the x quantity minus a number. So the format is what gave it away for me. All right. What is the rate of change of the Boosters Club profits with respect to the number of sweatshirts sold? Remember, the rate of change is simply the slope. So my slope in this case would be 25. So I could say the rate of change, which is m, my slope, is $25. And with respect to this, per sweatshirt, and that's just interpreting the problem.